Here's a brief but annoying message to let you know that you could have first heard this episode 9 months ago if you were a subscriber to our Iron Filing Society Patreon offering.
For the price of a pint and a St Clement's each month, you can get up to 4 episodes a week, 9 months before the rest of the world gets them. Early access to regular episodes, lots of other marvellous benefits, and there's absolutely no adverts or brief but annoying messages like this that will get right on your ticks.
Find out more and subscribe now at tftimemachine.com/ironfilings.
Here we go, here we go, here we go, here we go, this is it!
This is Top Flight Time Machine. I am Andy Hotbody Dawson. Pow, pow, pow.
I'm Sam Nifty Delaney. So what?
Welcome along to the Rod Hull Odyssey. We're still looking at Rod Hull's appearance on This Is Your Life on ITV from 1983. We just got up to the bit where his best pal, Bill Wallace.
Oh, I love
That's
Bill Wallace.
That's a solid name for a best pal, isn't it?
Yeah.
Bill Wallace.
Really good. Who's your best pal? Bill Wallace, obviously.
Fuck, you're all right then. Yeah.
If I met someone called Bill Wallace, I'd say, do you have a vacancy for a best mate? Because I'm strongly interested.
He'll say, there's a waiting list. There's a waiting list of 17 other men.
Of course there is.
Who want to be best pals.
That's part of the
Bill
gig when you're born
Wallace.
with a name like Bill Wallace.
Of course, it's William Wallace, isn't it?
Or
Would
that,
be
I
his
don't
full
know.
name.
That's not so. That's problematic, isn't it? Hang on. No. Well, hang on. No, I'm wrong about that. Well, William Wallace was Braveheart, wasn't he?
He's Braveheart, wasn't he?
Oh yeah, he's a good bloke, isn't he? Oh,
He's
Braveheart.
all right, blue face.
Yeah.
Good lad.
Yeah. So I was thinking of someone else. Rod Wallace, the former Leeds United.
Is Rod Wallace problematic?
Yeah, I won't go into white. I actually loved Rod Wallace. You know what? Just like side note, it's not strictly relevant to us doing a deep dive into Rod Hull's 1983
It's called
episode.
Rod, so it's fairly.
No, I was very surprised and disappointed that Rod Wallace was never handed an England cap, especially during Leeds' title-winning season of 1992, when he was a regular up front with Lee Chapman.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Lee Chapman, did he get many calls for
Lee
England?
Chapman, I do have a problem with because he was shit. He came to West Ham and he couldn't fucking be bothered. He was
what period?
He was
come?
disdainful.
Was it post-Leeds?
What happened was he was leaving Leeds, right? Because he was always a fucking cart horse, right? And he'd won the league at Leeds, and they'd signed Brian Deane, I think, didn't they? Did Leeds sign Brian Deane at some point? Right. So
From Sheffield United.
Yeah. So he was off, and we tried to buy him, and he turned us down for Portsmouth. Now, no offence to Portsmouth, right? Good club, Portsmouth, but we were a bit put out by that, and he said something sneering about West Ham because we were struggling at the time, right? But then, halfway through the season, we were going to get relegated. So what we did was we sold Julian Dix to Liverpool, right? And with the money, in exchange, we got Mike Marsh and David Burrows from Liverpool, plus something like £2 million. They were both really good players, right? Was happy with them. But then with the money we got, we quickly spent 1 million of it to get Lee Chapman, who'd gone to Portsmouth and decided after just like 3 months he didn't really fancy it, right?
Didn't fancy it.
And so he took the money and came to us, but he sulkily turned up, having already turned us down once, and barely broke sweat for the next fucking 2 years. I'm not happy. Plus the old business with Leslie Ash, we won't go into that for legal reasons, but there's a few things that I wasn't happy about to do with Lee Chapman.
Well, we had him in his early years. We had him in about 84, 85, I think. We got him from Stoke, where he'd done well at Stoke when he was young, and he had a decent reputation. And we got him, and he did fuck all for us as well.
It's fucking cart horse, mate.
He just got lucky. He went to Leeds, which was a club that kind of suited his game.
Sheffield Wednesday. So I think Howard Wilkinson had him at Sheffield Wednesday, right? And he sort of thought, I can use you, I can utilise you.
You're a focal point.
Yeah, you've got no ability, but I like that in a player, right? It means you're not going to get you're not going to get above yourself. I'm going to use you. And then when he went to Leeds, he took him there. But for me, Rod Wallace was the man. Loved him. Pacey, skillful.
If you're a Leeds United fan of a certain age and would like to get in touch and dismiss what we've just said, don't bother. We're not interested.
But I'm strongly confident that Leeds fans will, but fundamentally they'll agree with our assessment of that strike force, because of course they'll have affection for Lee Chapman because they won the league with him up front, and they'll have happy memories of goals he scored. But listen, Leeds fans, you fucking know that Rod Wallace was the one with talent, and he should have got at least one England cap, like Mel Sterling did. They gave Mel Sterling a fucking England cap for playing in that Leeds team.
That's true. Yeah, maybe someone might have one.
They didn't give Chris Fairclough one. He was a good centre-back. English didn't get one. I think this was...
Chris Fairclough as well also had that thing where his hair was falling out, wasn't he? Do you remember that?
Wasn't that the other one?
He had alopecia.
They had another centre-back called something like Chris White. There were two centre-backs.
Yeah, you're right.
There was two centre-backs, Chris Wright and Chris Fairclough. And they were the two, and neither of them got international caps. I don't know if Chris Wright was English, but I think he was. Chris Fairclough definitely was.
Yeah, it was Chris White. And I apologise to Fairclough and White. I'm just Googling about his hair now to see if there's anything going on. No, it's not been documented a lot. Alopecia, I think. I'll make an uneducated diagnosis of alopecia.
I don't know what was going on with the bloke.
That's all right.
Yeah, but they were both good players. It just seems strange that there was a lot of English players in that team. This was the Graham Taylor era where the England squad had a lot of shit in it as well, by the way, didn't it?
This is true. Yeah, you'd have thought that Leeds team would have been ideal for the Graham Taylor era. I mean, Lee Chapman for Leeds, 137 appearances, 62 goals. That's almost 1 in 2.
That's not bad, is it?
One of the seasons was in the second division.
Right, okay.
And they won the second division.
No
that was
promotion
kind of
season.
That championship winning season, which of course was the last season before the Premier League started, he got 16 goals as Leeds won the league title, but hat-trick in a 6-1 away win against Sheffield Wednesday, hat-trick in a 5-1 home win against Wimbledon. So that's 6 goals you can take away immediately because they were just...
Can you just... I'm trying to... I've remembered practically the whole team. I think John Lukic was in goal. Dorigo and Sterling were the full-backs. Fairclough and White were the centre-backs. Now, the midfield was Batty, Speed, Strachan, and who am I forgetting? There was a...
It was on the
winger.
Left. It wasn't Sellers, was it?
Scott Sellers?
Scott Sellers?
I don't think so.
No.
Quickly, let's find out.
It's one of them teams where you think you would always remember it.
Well, I'd remember practically all of it because then up front, it was Chapman and Wallace. So
who did you say it was in midfield? Speed, Strachan,
Batty. Yeah.
And it was a wide man, wasn't there?
There was a wide man, and we're going to fucking kick ourselves when we find out who it was. Yeah.
Steve Hodge.
No. I don't think... I can't
Gary McAllister.
It was Gary McAllister. Of course Gary it fucking was. He was almost like the best player in the team. How did I forget him? I don't know.
Scott Sellers was in that team as well. There was one of those squads where they had a really small squad. They had like a 15-man squad.
I think the 4 players who were like regulars were in the midfield was Strachan, McAllister, Batty and Speed.
If you've tuned in to listen to the Rod Hull Odyssey and you're listening to us just remembering names of footballers now, we do apologise. We'll get on to Rod Hull in a moment.
Remembering names of footballers is actually quite a good laugh. Come on, let's be honest.
At our age it is. Remembering anything is...
Where you just say names of players to each other. It'd be like Max Rushton did that with Barry Glendenning on TalkSport, didn't he?
That's what we're doing now, basically.
Yeah, I loved it. Well, don't forget my game that I've had running now for over 5 years. I'm thinking of a footballer. What footballer am I thinking of?
That's right, yeah.
You know someone got that. I don't know if you remember who the footballer... Yeah, but I haven't given them... Because I promised £1 million to whoever gets.
Well, silly.
Really silly. So I'm kind of on the run from that person now.
Yeah, and you just brought it up again. I wouldn't have done that. End the game now if you can.
The game has ended. I repeat, the game has ended.
No further submissions. Nobody will be paid. Read the small print.
Dickheads.
So Bill Wallace, who just went over to Sydney and became a TV writer after being an engineer.
And he's done very fucking well for himself by the looks of him.
Very well.
Because he's done out in lovely gear. He looks really smart and dapper. He's got a lovely tan and a well-trimmed beard. And he looks like everything's going right in his life. His missus, she's lovely too.
His lovely wife, Mavis.
He's got a great setup. That's what I'm...
Yeah.
He's just got a great setup, mate.
So, speaking of Australia, we then go across, not live, because that wasn't possible then, a recorded segment of one of Rod Hull's former entertainment colleagues. There's none other than the great Warren Mitchell, a.k.a. Alf Garnett.
Hilarious bit. Best bit so far, arguably.
Yeah. Warren talks about the time when he invited Rod to become part of his touring cabaret act. And he says, rumour has it you'll be heading to Sydney shortly, Rod, so I'll be in Perth. Bit of Australian geographical humour there. And he says they spent 5 or 6 years touring Australia and New Zealand.
Amazing,
5 or 6 years.
But you're not going to talk about how Warren Mitchell appears. He's in his swimming pool.
Oh, I forgot to mention it, yeah. Go on, you can do it.
Well, when they open it, I think he's actually swimming lengths, isn't he?
He's in a pool.
He's in a swimming pool, swimming lengths, and you're thinking, who's this? And then he gets out, and it's fucking Alf Garnett, and he stays in his trunks when he delivers the piece to camera.
Because that's Australia.
Which I would have thought they would have gone all the way over to. They would have sent a researcher or a cameraman or whatever, and a soundman all the way over to Australia just to film this one segment.
I don't know. Maybe they've got connections. There always seem to be some kind of footage from Australia on these things, so maybe they've got but still a tie up with an Australian station. Long
before the wee transfers of this world.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Someone's still got to fly it over, and that's going to take a week. This is it. It's a huge logistical. I mean, they could have done with you on the production team, because the logistics involved in putting this together are pretty elaborate.
Well, yeah, they do all right, though. You know, they didn't need me, who was, let's face it, 10 at the time.
Yeah, but mate, if we do ever bring back This Is Your Life, would you be the executive producer of it?
I'll consider it.
Good.
I'll consider it.
You're the man that we'd need for a job like this.
If the money's right, and the timetable, let's say, that's right.
And the let's say the extras.
The perks.
The extras and perks, TBC.
I'm not going to go into what they might be, but I think you know what I'm talking about.
I've heard a lot about the perks available in the television industry. Let's just say some of them are appealing.
So, yeah, Warren Mitchell is in his trunks, and they spent 5 or 6 years touring Australia and New Zealand. He refers to emu as a Jewish pigeon.
I don't understand what he's on about there, but it's all right because Warren Mitchell is Jewish, so I think it's an inside joke.
Jewish, yeah, exactly. So that's Warren Mitchell. Good guest to have on. They talk about Rod living on a boat for a while.
Now this is this is one of the many parts that I think there's as many questions raised by Rod Hull's This Is Your Life as there is answers, because certain things are sort of skimmed over, and I actually researched this a little bit, and actually it was quite a big deal, the houseboat fire. That
was it?
Yeah, right. and they really they sort of skate over it a bit. I think.
Okay.
Because you're sitting there at home, right, and you're like, all right, Rod Hull, great. Warren Mitchell, wow, didn't know they were mates. Good, all this time in Australia, and then suddenly they go quite casually, yeah. And then for a few years you lived on a houseboat, and then it caught fire, and you had to move out. Anyway, on to the next bit. I'm thinking, hang on a minute. If I was chatting to someone and they told me that for a few years they lived on a houseboat and then that houseboat burnt down, that to me would be one of the major episodes in anyone's life, wouldn't it?
Yeah, of course.
So why don't we get more details?
Well, did it burn down? Because they said it broke its moorings and it crashed or something.
Oh, I thought it burnt.
You said you did some research.
I think I'm just going to Google Rod Hull's houseboat fire.
Googled something.
Rod. It's a great name. If we ever get a horse, like a racehorse that we invest in as Top Flight Time Machine, we should call it Rod Hull's Houseboat Fire.
We'll do that.
And it's Rod Hull's Houseboat Fire in the final furlong by a nose.
Yeah, I can't see anything about it online at all.
No, but I did the second thing. I typed that into Google, and the first headline, unfortunately, is Rod Hull dies in TV roof tragedy. The second link is from BBC website, which is, I don't know what you think, but I think that's always a reliable source of great content. Like, they don't chuck any old shit up on the BBC website because they're not interested in fucking clickbait, right? So if there's a feature on there, you know it's going to be solid. You know it's going to deliver. And
I'm not seeing it.
And this one says...
We haven't got it in Northern Google.
This headline says, inside the most bizarre houseboats in Britain. And I'm like, fucking hell, this deserves a click. Rod Stewart mentions...
there it is. You're looking at Rod Stewart.
Yeah, that's why it came up. But apparently... But all I know is this is a BBC article about strange houseboats and it involves Rod Stewart. And for those reasons and more, I am in. I am right in on this article.
There's nothing. I can't find anything about Rod Hull.
Okay, maybe his boat didn't burn down. And I regret getting so angry about them skating over it. I must have dreamt it.
Were you wearing your sleep mask when you did this research?
Yeah, I must have been. Right.
What they say on it is that he's living on a boat and his daughter went to visit, which suggests, obviously, post-marriage.
Yeah. It's a classic divorce.
Post-marital retreat.
It's a classic divorced man's abode, isn't it? Near me, on the river in Chiswick, I run past the house. There's a lot of... They're nice-looking houseboats, and I've been on one once because I happened to interview a guy who turned, just by coincidence, I'd always run... It's on my running route, and I'd always run past these houseboats, and I'd always thought... I'd really like to go in and investigate those houseboats, but I ought not to because that's private property. And then I was interviewing someone.
Go on them.
I had to interview someone once about something completely unrelated. It was in my book in Madmen and Badmen, and I said, and I was in touch with this guy on email, and then we said, right, okay, we'll meet up, and he goes, you can come to my house to interview me if you want. And I went, well, okay, but where do you live? And he went, in Chiswick. And I was like, oh great, that's not far from me. Whereabouts in Chiswick? And he went, on one of the houseboats. And I was like, fucking hell, this is the universe intervening in my life again here. This is great. I was like, I'll be there. I wanted. I'll be there in 20 minutes. But, yeah, where do you live? Please say houseboat in Chiswick. Please say houseboat in Chiswick. I live at a houseboat in Chiswick. Massive coincidence. It was wonderful, obviously, and we had a great afternoon. Yeah, they're great things, aren't they, houseboats? Mind you, so. My brother, the QPR terrorist legend Castellani, got into a bit of a scrape on one once and broke his finger.
Yeah, they can be dangerous.
Yeah.
I mean, I've hired one for the day.
But that wasn't a houseboat, was it? That was just a barge.
Well, it's the same kind of thing.
Was it domesticated inside?
It wasn't domesticated, but it could have been if it was fitted out. It was just fitted out with some seats.
Okay. Well, you could say that about any boat. Like, any boat is a potential houseboat.
Yeah, but it was potentially a houseboat. The fact that it only hired it for the fucking day. Why would I want?
Would I
want a bed and a kitchen?
I want to hire a potential houseboat, not a current houseboat. A potential houseboat. Do you mean a boat? Me. Call it that if you wish.
I don't think you're in any position to be shouting the odds after your Rod Hull research disaster a few minutes ago.
Just made up.
Getting the fucking grips with detail.
Thank God he's fucking dead, because I heavily implied that he'd committed arson on himself as an insurance claim. I'll admit, I was hinting at, I think he'd done an insurance fucking job on the houseboat.
Yeah, that's
and it
kind
was
of
completely,
what you were
completely groundless. Completely groundless.
Jalapeño.
Well, from what he says, it was all sorted out because his daughter went to visit and the boat wasn't there. It broke its moorings and crashed. And there's laughter from the audience, there's a bit of laughter from the other people sitting around. But then Rod, who was softly spoken throughout this entire show, he just mumbles, yeah, I got a bill for £125 from Thames Waterboard for salvage.
He's fucking still fuming about it, isn't he?
Yeah, still bitter.
I fucking want that back as well.
It's very Alan Partridge, that bit. Then Larry Grayson comes on, which is great. Always great to see Larry Grayson, who I think's been kind of forgotten almost from the history of British entertainment.
There is,
of course, he used to present. He used to present Generation Game, the biggest show on TV. He did it after Bruce Forsyth.
There is some really good YouTube stuff of Larry Grayson. There's a really good interview. I think it's on Pebble Mill or something.
Right.
The good thing about him is, when you see him being interviewed, is that even in those days, which were far less enlightened, he was open about his sexuality. So it wasn't...
Right.
What you tended to get in those days is you got a lot of blokes acting camp for a joke, but it was all implied. The sexuality was never mentioned. It was like...
It's character.
Yeah. Whereas I saw an interview with him. I hope this isn't another thing that I've invented during a cheese stream, where
he's dead as well, so
he was being very open about his sexuality, even in those days, like 70s, early 80s. But he's fucking funny. Do you know, he had his friend Everard, didn't he? That he always talked about.
Yeah.
My friend Everard. He said to me, Larry.
And his other friend was Slack Alice.
Fucking Larry Grayson was a genius, mate.
He was brilliant. Yeah, really was. There was a really good documentary about him on ITV a couple of years ago.
Was there?
It might
Maybe
be on
that's
YouTube
why I saw
by
that
now.
clip.
Yeah, well worth a look.
Slack
pioneer.
Alice.
Slack Alice. So Larry Grayson comes on and he talks about how they met up years ago and became firm friends. They've done Margate summer seasons, pantos in Bristol. He says, I love Rod very dearly, but I can't stick that bird. Which is kind of what everyone says. Yeah. So then what do we get after that? Michael Parkinson.
Yes,
who we touched upon before. And it shows us that clip, of course. That clip on Parkinson is fucking brilliant. Because it happens so gradually. Because Rod, obviously they're sitting in those chairs that they did the interviews in, but they're chairs that have got casters on them. So they could move around.
That's what makes it extra good, yeah.
And Rod just inches gradually towards Parkinson as the interview's going on, and you can feel the tension building.
I bet you, though, that Parkinson... Either this was extremely well choreographed and signed off by Parky beforehand, but if Rod Hull just did that, Parkinson would have laughed it off on camera, but he's exactly the sort of guy who, as soon as the camera stops rolling, goes fucking mental about stuff like that.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, if you're going to get Emu on and it's a face-to-face interview, you're going to get jumped. And he must have known that, surely.
I'm Michael Parkinson. I am a serious journalist and broadcaster. I'm one of the nation's... the nation's favourite broadcaster and serious television journalist. I'm personal friends with Muhammad Ali and Billy Connolly, and I will not have a puppet physically assaulting me on my television programme. You keep that for your Russell Hartys or your Michael Aspels of this world, not me.
No, I bet he knew it was going to happen.
Yeah,
I think he will have done. But it's great though, because as I say, Emu just inches towards Parky and then loses it, and he grabs the arm of the chair.
Yeah,
he doesn't go straight for Parkinson, and he spins the chair round. So Parkinson's spinning round, and then Emu goes for his head, wraps his mouth is fully open, which is almost like vertical. Attacks Parkinson's head.
What's interesting
and then goes for his arse once he's down.
What's interesting about it is it keeps cutting from the clip back to the This Is Your Life studio for reaction shots. First it cuts to Larry Grayson, who actually looks a bit uncomfortable watching it. He's not laughing that much. He's kind of like, oh. Then it cuts back to the clip. Then it cuts back, and you see Rod himself. And Rod, not joking or exaggerating, if you look at it back, Andy, Rod is watching it, stony faced, with tears welling in his eyes, but not tears of joy, tears of regret.
You think?
Have a look. Have a look now. I'm watching it now. You won't believe his reaction to it. Everything about seeing his life back is making him sort of think, Is this what it's all about? Is this it? A puppet bird attacking people?
Oh, there it is. Right, there's the attack. Courtesy of BBC Television. Yeah, it's getting closer and closer. Parkinson edging away. Emu attacks the chair, spins him round. Yeah, come on, I want to see some cutaways back to Rod. He's going, oh.
Parky, of course, doesn't turn up to the studio. No. Classic Parky power play.
Larry Grayson looks shocked. He's just watching it impassively, isn't he?
This is classic Parkinson power play, by the way, when he does the link up.
Chegwin's loving it.
Oh, yeah, Chegwin would love it.
He's had his shoe off. Parkinson's shoe's gone. Tries to hit the bird with his shoe. I don't know what his reaction is. He's kind of... And there is Parkinson. Yeah. I guess it would be bad form to laugh along with what he did that we're looking at, but he's sort of like...
Maybe
amused a bit by
it. I'm getting a strong sense that Rod doesn't find the antics of Emu remotely amusing. I think he does it because he's discovered that people love it and they want to see it, and it's a living.
It's just a job at the end of the day.
It's just a job like any other.
Yeah.
Do I'm like
just
it?
A pen pusher.
No, I'd rather not have to work, frankly. But this is where I found myself. Is it where I saw myself ending up? No, not at all. It's not. If I had been a performer, I probably would have seen myself more as a stage actor in the Shakespearean tradition. But as it happens, you never know how life's going to turn out. I got a puppet bird and I assault people with it. And
I used to live on a houseboat.
I used to live in a houseboat.
Broke its moorings.
And
it's all ups and downs, isn't it?
I was saddled with a big, what I believe, unjust bill from the council for that. And that set me off on a road. From that day onwards, I thought, Rod, whatever it takes to make a pretty penny, as Carlton Cole would say.
And Parkinson, as we say, is not there. But he says, despite what's been written about us, I'm very fond of you, and I think you're a splendid entertainer.
Fuck off, Parky.
Despite what's been written about us. What's been written?
And I, of course, am the arbiter of what constitutes a great entertainer.
Yeah, I've had them all on my show. All of them from Billy Connolly right through to...
Muhammad Ali.
Muhammad Ali. Frank Sinatra.
All of whom became close personal friends.
Edward IV. And then it goes to the Emu Broadcasting Company, which was EBC, which was the first thing I remember watching Emu on when I was a kid. Because it was like the BBC, but they'd taken over the BBC. Yeah, it was the brilliant. EBC, and the logo was the same as the BBC.
They expected us to believe that a puppet emu had taken over the world's most prestigious broadcasting corporation.
They did. I believed it. I fell for it.
Yeah, so did I.
So some of the cast come on, including Carol Lee Scott, who went on to play Grotbags.
Grotbags is there.
And then a film of my favourite from EBC. It was Billy Dainty.
Which one was he?
It was the Odd Job Man. It was the Odd Job Man on EBC, and he did lots of physical comedy, like a Max Wall kind of walk,
right,
up and down the stage, all that kind of thing. Billy Dainty was great. There's loads of stuff on YouTube with him.
There was always an Odd Job Man, wasn't there? In
yeah, you have to have an Odd Job Man, yeah,
like Mr. Bennett in Tony Hart.
Yeah, caretaker. Yeah,
you don't get many Odd Job Men anymore, do you, Andy? Do you have any round your way? Many round your
I
way?
think odd jobs all get outsourced, don't they? Now I don't think
there's probably an app now, isn't there, for odd jobs?
There probably is for odd jobs. Yeah, you press the app and it does the job.
Is this guy? Is he the one wearing the beret?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he reveals a few home truths as he describes them, and it turns out that Rod Hull's quite the prankster. A stink bomb under, it might have been Princess Margaret's seat. I think it was Princess Margaret. I haven't got it written down, but I've forgotten. Nicking socks from people. Women thinking they were going through the change of life with hot flushes, but it was just a lighter under their seat.
The change of life. That's what the menopause was known as, wasn't it? The change of life. No one says that anymore either.
They don't.
She's going through the change.
The change, yeah. Hot flushes. Sleeps with the window open.
My mum kept going on about that when I was a kid. It made me really uncomfortable. But it's important to not stigmatise the change of life. And happily, it is no longer the taboo it once was. But I would say that when I was a boy and my mum kept informing me about the ebb and flow of her experiences in the change of life, I was like, Mum, turn it in. I'm not interested.
This is a lot. Yeah.
I'm trying to watch. I'm trying to watch Emu TV.
Then we have, another reference to Emu from Billy Date. He describes him as overstuffed blue tit. I think that's my favourite one of all of them. Then we have Rod's sister Joan, who's come from Australia, probably on the same plane as Bill Wallace and Mavis. And this is a really lovely bit. She talks about how when she was a kid there was fairies at the bottom of the garden, and every day she'd go down to the bottom of the garden, there'd be a note from the fairies, and there were things that would then come true later that day.
Oh, that's nice, isn't it?
And it was Rod who was doing the notes all that time. That's a lovely thing, I think. A lovely bit of imaginative. It's the kind of thing a parent would do, not a sibling. But, yeah, well done, Rod. And then it's almost at the end. Those doors come apart once again. We see Rod's 3 younger kids with their eggs.
Oh, they've made out they'd stayed at home, but it was a little surprise that they did turn up after all.
They were there all the time. But on top of those massive eggs, they've now hatched. The kids are now on the floor safely, thank you. But there's no emu. We don't get emu. I thought we might have done. I think there's some little emus that they've hatched themselves, little shit ones that aren't
Maybe
violent.
He just feels like he lives in the shadow of emu, and tonight was supposed to be about Rod, and his wife might have briefed them and said, listen, do yourself a favour, keep emu away, because he won't
emu
like
cannot
it.
exist unless Rod's in control of him, and there was no real way of facilitating that, was there?
Yeah, you can't bring on just a floppy fucking emu in a box.
Yeah, just here, get hold of this, mate.
Yeah, stick it on and start doing your antics.
And it's Rod Hull's This Is Your Life, not fucking emu.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Fair enough. As we've said before, when emu's not around, he's sleeping.
Friend of the show, Nigel Adderley, got in touch with some bonus This Is Your Life content.
All right, yeah.
Which I'm sure he won't mind me reading out, because it's certainly the sort of thing that's of interest to us and our listeners. He said, I enjoyed the Abe and Andrew stuff recently on the Rod Hull pod. He was Dickie Davies' mentor. Dickie Davies, of course, passed away this week. Very sad. Who understudied him as the presenter of World of Sport and then took over when it moved to LWT. So, Eamon Andrews was the presenter of World of Sport, was he? Originally.
I think he was, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jimmy Hill suggested he shorten his. This is the killer fact. Are you ready for a killer fact that Nigel Adderley has delivered? Okay, get ready. Jimmy Hill suggested he shorten his name to Dickie from Richard, as Diana Dawes and Double Diamond were massive at the time, and Jimmy thought he could tap into that. Genius.
That's really good.
Now listen, I'm going to give you a little bit of advice here that's going to get you, it'll get you far if you listen and you act upon it. Do yourself out. What's big at the moment? Anything with 2 Ds. Diana Dawes, Double Diamond, Double D tits. Everyone loves them, don't they? Do yourself a favour. Change Richard to Dickie.
Fucking hell. Hey, he was right, though.
He was right. Look, and the rest is history.
Architect of Dickie Davis's name and 3 points for a win.
Dickie Davis.
He brought that in as well, didn't he?
Yeah, he was a real innovator, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was annoying, but he was an innovator. He was a thinker.
He was an ideas man.
He was. And he brought in he scrapped the maximum wage for footballers as well.
Yeah. I mean, by the end, people just thought he was a daft old bastard, but it was a bit unfair in a way, wasn't it? Because he'd done so much for football.
Exactly. Yeah, we might do a Jimmy Hill deep dive.
Yeah, we really should.
A re-examination of Jimmy Hill. So that's the end of it then, and then they do the thing which they do at the end of This Is Your Life, where they all slowly walk towards the front of the stage to receive the applause.
Yeah.
And Rod just looks stunned by what's just happened in the last 25 minutes. It's just all too much for him. And that is it. That's your Rod Hull, This Is Your Life. What have we learned from it?
Well, I think I've learned about the really fascinating dynamic that exists between a puppeteer and a puppet, and how ultimately the puppet overshadows the puppet's own master. And I think there is a real conflict and ambivalence in the heart of Rod Hull about his career and about his relationship with Emu. And I think there's something bittersweet about this whole programme that I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, I'll take that. I've learned that you should always make sure your houseboat is properly moored.
Got to moor it properly. If you're going to invest in a houseboat, make sure, don't skimp on your mooring.
Otherwise the Thames Water Authority is going to come after you.
Yeah, you're mooring
salvage.
Ropes.
Yeah. So there we go. We'll start a new Odyssey next week. I think we've got something lined up. I can't remember what it is.
Might be Jimmy Hill, might be Noel Edmonds on Concord, might be something else. Just don't know.
Yeah, it is. It's Noel Edmonds on Concord.
Yeah.
Of course it is.
Okay.
Of course it is.
Why wouldn't it be? Supersonic Noel.
I can't wait to start watching it now. Thanks for listening and goodbye.
Goodbye.